Charlie Munger, 9 Habits That Seem Harmless But Make You Poor. Most people think poverty is loud. They picture catastrophe, job loss, market crash, disaster. In reality, poverty usually whispers. It slips in through tiny habits that look innocent, daily choices that, over years, compound into a cage. If you want to change a life, you don't always need a miracle. You need to stop casting votes for the wrong future. I speak plainly because that's how Munger spoke. Not to be cruel, but to make the problem obvious so it can be fixed. These are not exotic traps. They're ordinary behaviors, comfortable and socially accepted. They feel harmless because the pain is delayed. That delay is what does the damage. Before we run the list, here's the reason small things matter. Your brain is an economy of energy. Thinking hard consumes metabolic resources. Your brain prefers shortcuts. When you repeat an action enough, your brain automates it. The first time you resist an impulse, it costs you attention and willpower. The 100th time, it costs almost nothing because it's wired into a routine. That's the advantage of good habits and the danger of bad ones. Compounding makes the architecture of your life. Habits are the bricks. The reward system favors immediacy. A quick pleasure today fires the same circuits that a slower, larger reward would, except the future reward is abstract and distant. So the brain takes the immediate option by default unless you put friction in the way of that decision. That friction can be as simple as removing a credit card from your wallet, as deliberate as a written rule, or as structural as redesigning your environment. I won't promise this will make you rich overnight. No one with sense promises that. But if you want to increase the probability that your life accumulates value rather than leaks it, you must stop habits that systematically bias you toward short-term comfort and away from long-term advantage. Each habit below is a form of small, repeated surrender. Each corrective is simple, if you do it faithfully. If you want more clear, brutal thinking about wealth and habits, subscribe and download the 9 Habit Checklist in the description. This piece will give you the frame. The checklist will give you the first rules to enforce. 1. Illusion of effort. Working hard in the wrong direction. You can work like a machine and still get poor. I've seen people who are industrious to the point of heroism, overtime, late nights, the sacrificial lifestyle, yet their bank accounts and opportunity sets don't reflect that exertion. Why? Because work without leverage and judgment is an expense, not an investment. Imagine 2 carpenters. One spends 8 hours nailing the same roof alone. The other spends 4 hours teaching an apprentice and designing a jig that halves the next roof's labor time. The first looks busy. The second builds leverage. The first votes for a person who trades hours for dollars forever. The second votes for someone who scales time and improves the return on effort. Mechanism. Effort alone doesn't compound. Judgment, systems, and leverage do. The brain loves doing. It mistakes motion for progress. Motion feels productive. Progress requires thinking. Selecting which tasks matter, delegating, automating, and applying leverage. Corrective action. Before you start, think. Apply a 2-minute rule to major tasks. Ask, is this the best use of my time? Is there a lever I can pull? Teach someone, automate the repetitive parts, or build a tool. Reward systems and incentives, determine behavior, redesign them. Make a weekly 30-minute inventory of your activities and ruthlessly ask which ones actually move the needle. One-line takeaway. Hard work is a vote. Make sure it votes for leverage, not just motion. 2. Instant gratification, choosing the present over the future. Immediate pleasure is addictive because it's immediate. Choosing a small reward now instead of a larger reward later is not weakness. It's human wiring. The problem is when you habitually choose now. The compounding math turns 1,000 small gratifications into a persistent deficit. Concrete example. Suppose you buy a $4 latte every weekday. That's roughly $20 a week, $80 a month. Over 10 years with modest investment returns, that stream becomes a meaningful sum, enough for a decent down payment in some regions. The latte itself won't be the only factor, but the pattern, small recurring consumption, adds up. Multiply that by other small comforts, dinner deliveries, impulsive shopping, apps with monthly fees, and the picture is clear. Micro-gratifications are the slow leak in the boat. Mechanism. Immediate rewards train the brain to prefer now. Habits form because the pleasure signals reinforce the behavior. Once reinforced, resistance grows expensive. It takes far more willpower to reverse a habit than to prevent its formation. Corrective action. Create friction for impulses. Delay gratification by default. Add a 24-hour rule for non-essential purchases. Set a weekly spending envelope. Use a separate account for discretionary spending that you fund monthly, rather than allowing instant credit. Replace the habit with a tiny, cheaper ritual that satisfies the need for novelty or comfort, but costs less. Train the horizon. Visualize the future payoff before you spend. One-line takeaway. Small comforts paid for today are the taxes your future self pays. 3. Debt for pleasure. Borrowing to consume debt is a tool when used for leverage, buying an appreciating asset, funding education that increases earning power, or smoothing real emergencies. Debt for pleasure is something else. It's a claim sale on future freedom. Credit cards and financed purchases create an illusion. You feel affluent today while surrendering tomorrow's choices to interest and fixed payments. Example. A $2,500 financed gadget at 20% interest costs far more than the sticker price. If you pay the minimum, you might spend years servicing interest. The problem compounds. As payments become fixed obligations, your ability to save, invest, or take advantage of opportunity shrinks. Mechanism. Interest is a compounding force that works against you when you borrow to consume. Moreover, debt creates psychological inertia. Fixed monthly payments make you evaluate fewer options because you're already committed. The brain then optimizes short-term stability, not long-term optionality. Corrective action. Prioritize knocking down high-interest consumer debt first. Set up automated payments above the minimum. Make a rule. Don't finance depreciating consumer goods. If an item is not worth cash today, it's highly unlikely to be worth debt tomorrow. Live below your means deliberately and fund optional purchases from saved discretionary cash. One-line takeaway. Financing consumption trades your future flexibility for present image. 4. Stopping learning. The cost of complacency. Skill is the only true competitive moat many of us have. When you stop learning, you don't stand still. You fall behind. Industries shift, technologies change, markets reprice skill. If you rely on past success and refuse new knowledge, your earning potential slowly erodes. Example, think of a mid-career worker who stopped reading books and stopped attending one-day workshops. In 5 years, their field automates a portion of their tasks. The worker wonders why hiring favors younger people who kept learning. It's not age, it's adaptability. Mechanism, knowledge, compounds like money. A single habit, reading 12 books a year, multiplies your mental capital. Learning increases judgment, which in turn improves decisions about work, investment, and relationships. The opposite creates brittle thinking and narrow options. Corrective action: set a learning quota, read 1 new book per month, take 1 course per quarter, schedule 30 minutes a day for concentrated study. Make curiosity social. Join a reading group, discuss ideas out loud, teach what you learn. Replace entertainment time with high-quality learning when possible. One-line takeaway: skills compound. Stop learning, and your margin for error vanishes. 5. Avoiding responsibility. Blame as a wealth tax. Blame is easy because it frees you from change. It externalizes failure: the market, the boss, the partner, the system. The person who blames is avoiding the uncomfortable work of improvement. Over time, blame corrodes agency, the capacity to act intentionally and repair errors. Example: a small business owner loses a client and blames the economy. Someone else in the same industry loses a client, examines their service, adjusts terms, and wins new business. One moves forward, the other stays reactive. Mechanism: escaping responsibility avoids short-term discomfort, but prolongs the long-term problem. Agency is a multiplier. Owning mistakes leads to learning, changes, and improvements. Avoidance makes you predictable to others, and predictable is exploitable. Corrective action: adopt a first response of ownership. When something goes wrong, write down 3 things you could have done differently. Ask, what can I control about this? Keep a failure log and a learning note for each entry. Make admitting mistakes a default behavior. Teach your team or household to do the same. One-line takeaway: if you don't own your mistakes, they own you. 6. Comfort with mediocrity. Settling for good enough. Good enough is comfortable. It reduces effort, avoids risk, and lowers the cognitive burden of striving. But the habit of accepting mediocrity is corrosive because it prevents improvement and allows external standards to define your ceiling. Example: an employee makes work tolerable, meets the minimum, avoids extra projects, never volunteers for hard tasks. They maintain a stable paycheck and minimal stress, but also minimal promotion prospects. The economics is simple. Markets reward scarcity and excellence. Mediocrity is neither scarce nor rewarded. Mechanism: mediocrity compounds by lowering expectations and reducing optionality. When you settle, you shrink the set of potential positive deviations in your life. Over decades, that shrinkage is significant. Fewer raises, fewer clients, fewer opportunities to pivot. Corrective action: choose small discomforts that compound into capability. Set monthly stretch goals, 1 task that scares you a little. Embrace the principle of deliberate practice. Work on specific weaknesses, seek feedback, iterate. Elevate standards for your work and your environment. If you can't commit to excellence across everything, pick 3 domains where excellence matters most and refuse mediocrity there. One-line takeaway: acceptable effort builds a life of acceptable results. 7. Outsourcing your thinking. Letting others do your judgment. Following experts can shortcut learning, but blind obedience is dangerous. When you outsource your thinking, You give up the ability to evaluate truth and adjust when circumstances change. Experts are fallible. Markets and trends shift. If you habitually default to other people's advice without understanding the underlying logic, you are one step from being misled. Example: subscribing to every investing guru's newsletter, executing their trades without understanding the rationale, and switching strategies every quarter. This is a recipe for inconsistent results. The noise overwhelms judgment. You become reactionary. Mechanism: dependence on external authorities replaces internal models. Judgment is a muscle. It atrophies with disuse. Worse, crowds can coordinate behaviors that create bubbles or cascades of bad decisions. Corrective action: cultivate independent mental models. Read primary sources. Ask engineers how a thing works before you buy it. Before you act on any financial advice, require 3 checks. Who benefits if you take this action? What is the underlying logic? And what are the downside scenarios? Learn to say, "I don't know," and then do the work to know. One-line takeaway: outsourcing thought buys convenience, costs judgment. 8. Treating time as renewable. Squandering the one irreplaceable resource, time, is the only irretrievable resource. Money can be earned. Reputation can be rebuilt with trouble. Time, once gone, is gone. Yet people schedule their days as if time will always be there to fix mistakes. They binge-watch, meander through indefinite projects, and say later until later becomes never. Concrete math: if you lose 2 hours a weekday to low-value distraction, that's 10 hours a week, around 500 hours a year. Over 10 years, that's 5,000 hours. With just a modest hourly opportunity cost, say $30 an hour, that's $150,000 of foregone value, purely from misallocated time. The numbers are rough, but the scale is real. Mechanism: treating time as renewable is a cultural habit. Social media, flexible delivery, and always-on connectivity train us to accept constant partial attention. Fragmented attention shaves off deep work and diminishes quality. Deep work is where leverage lives. Without it, you trade potential for fragmentary motion. Corrective action: guard time with scheduling rituals. Time block high-value work. Say no to low-priority meetings. Create a deep work window with no devices. Quantify the opportunity cost of your hours. Track how your time is spent for 2 weeks, and then allocate deliberately. One-line takeaway: time lost is life lost. Budget it like your most important asset. 9. Ignoring small leaks, micro expenses, and time drains add up. Tiny losses feel trivial, but pennies pile into pounds. Netflix here, app subscription there, convenience fees that drip like a slow leak. Over years, they carve canyons out of your net worth and mental energy. The worst leaks are invisible and recurring. Numeric illustration: 10 small subscriptions at $8 a month each is $80 a month, $960 a year. If that $960 were invested instead at modest long-term returns, it grows. The opposite is also true. These small recurring charges, multiplied by compounding interest you're not earning, represent lost future buying power. Mechanism: humans are loss-averse but bad at tracking frequent small losses. The pain of canceling a subscription today outweighs the abstract pain of lost future wealth. Time leaks are similar. Daily 5-minute distractions multiply into hours of lost deep work. Corrective action: audit your outflows quarterly. Cancel subscriptions you don't use. Consolidate redundant services. For time, run a weekly "Where did I spend my time?" check and eliminate the worst offenders. Make micro savings automatic. Root small amounts into an investment account the moment income hits to create enforced saving. One-line takeaway: fix the leaks before you build the ship. A watertight life sails farther. Pause and look at the pattern. These habits are not mainly about luck or intelligence. They're about repeated choices. Each small decision is a vote for a future. The compounding effect of habits is neutral, neither moral nor mystical. It simply follows the math. Votes for present comfort compound into a life with fewer options. Votes for learning, responsibility, and time discipline compound into a life with more options. A quick sketch shows how dangerous combinations work. Suppose you accept mediocre tasks at work, habit 6, borrow to fund lifestyle upgrades, habit 3, and ignore small leaks, habit 9. The result is a tight spiral. Your payments force you to take more work. Your time is eaten, preventing you from upskilling, and your ability to refuse low-quality opportunities vanishes. It's not a single catastrophic choice. It's the daily curriculum you accidentally follow. But there's another side. The same compounding logic empowers the opposite strategy. Start with one corrective habit. Delay small gratifications or audit subscriptions, and watch the effect magnify. Replace one vote for your future each day, and those votes add up. That's the inversion. You don't need to learn 10 new behaviors at once. Stop doing a few habitual errors, and your trajectory changes. I'll be blunt. None of this is glamorous. The work is boring. The payoff is boring too. Incremental increases in optionality, not immediate fireworks. But optionality is freedom, and freedom compounds into the choices that matter: where you live, who you associate with, how much time you spare. At this point, you might be thinking, okay, I see the traps, but how do I make change? How do I keep from falling back into familiar comforts? That's the practical question. Changing habits isn't a single epiphany. It's engineering. It's environment design, timing, feedback loops, and patience. Begin small. Pick one habit from this list that causes the most immediate pain or offers the clearest win. Make the corrective action automatic. Visualize the future you want, and then reverse engineer the votes required to get there. Keep a simple tracking metric. Do not overcomplicate. Your brain needs feedback to rewire. There's one more thing most people miss: social architecture. Your friends, colleagues, and family either reinforce your habits or undermine them. If your social circle treats debt as status, conformity is a powerful force. If your circle reads, experiments, and elevates the standard of conversation, you're pulled along. Choose your company as deliberately as you choose your investments. You've already heard the first half of the diagnosis. You know where the leaks are most common. You have a sense of the math. But the most insidious habits are often those that hide inside socially rewarded behaviors, actions that look virtuous but aren't. They require sharper scrutiny because they masquerade as excellence. We've uncovered the broad mechanics and 6 of the 9 habitual traps. The remaining 3 are quieter, more technical, and arguably more destructive because they disguise themselves as competence or convenience. They won't hit you like a single mistake. They will erode judgment invisibly. If you want a life that accumulates options and capital rather than drains them, you must confront those next. The remaining 3 are quieter, technical, and clever. They hide behind competence and convenience. They don't shout, I will ruin you. They whisper, this is fine, while slowly rerouting your life into narrower channels. We'll unpack each of them with the same economy of speech, what the habit looks like, why it damages, and what to do instead. 7. Outsourcing your thinking, the slow atrophy of judgment. You feel efficient following someone smarter. A newsletter tells you what stock to buy. A pundit tells you which strategy works. For a while, it looks like progress. You save time, you gained confidence, but judgment is a muscle. When you outsource the heavy lifting of reason, that muscle atrophies. Concrete scene, you subscribe to investment advice, copy the trades, and then the market shifts. The same guru's logic no longer applies, but your behavior hasn't caught up because you never built the ability to test underlying assumptions. You flip from one trend to the next. Your portfolio becomes a collage of other people's convictions rather than a coherent plan. Why it compounds. Errors in judgment are not one-time losses. They alter learning. If you always accept others' answers, you don't learn how to spot flawed premises. You become reactive. Reaction compounded over years is chaos. Missed hedges, poor position sizing, and repeatedly following dead ends that look busy but are unprofitable. Simple corrective. Build a default checklist. Before acting on any external advice, require 3 things. Explain the logic to yourself in 1 sentence. Identify who benefits if you follow the advice. Outline a worst-case scenario and how much you'd lose. If you can't pass the checklist, don't act. Read primary sources, papers, manuals, raw data, before you accept boiled-down opinions. Keep a record of why you acted and what happened. Judgment improves with feedback. Feedback requires that you take responsibility for decisions. One-liner. If you continually outsource thinking, you'll eventually own nothing but other people's mistakes. 8. Treating time as renewable, the costliest error. People juggle schedules like they're playing with spare change. They treat late nights, fragmented attention, and endless catch-up days as repairable. They're not. Time is the only irretrievable commodity. Once it's spent, nothing buys it back. Concrete math. Again, because math is merciless and fair, lose 2 low-value hours each weekday, scrolling, replying to low-priority messages, commuting inefficiently. That's 10 hours a week, about 500 hours a year, and roughly 5,000 hours in a decade. If your opportunity cost is $30 an hour, that's $150,000 of lost potential across 10 years. If those hours were invested in deliberate skill building or high-leverage tasks, the payoff compounds. If they're frittered away, the long view looks very small. Why it compounds? Time lost reduces your capacity to learn, to build systems, and to pursue rare opportunities. It shrinks optionality. Every hour wasted is an hour you can't offer to a side project, a business, or deep study that multiplies future choices. Corrective move. Treat time like cash. Start by tracking where it actually goes for 2 weeks. Be obsessively honest. Then create a time budget. Block the high-value hours on your calendar and protect them like cash in a safe. Say no first. Say yes only after checking alignment with long-term priorities. Create friction for time drains. Remove autoplay. Set message check windows and batch meetings. Remember, attention is the throttle lever on leverage. One-liner, spend your hours like you spend your capital, deliberately and with an eye toward returns. 9. Ignoring small leaks. The invisible tax on future freedom. Micro losses are boring until one day you can't buy what you used to dream of. Small subscriptions, impulse buys, administrative inefficiencies, every 5-minute distraction. These are the holes in your hull. Individually trivial, collectively lethal. Concrete numbers. 10 subscriptions at $8 each cost $960 a year. Redirected to investments at a modest return, that annual stream compounds. If you start young, the future value is astonishing. If you wait, the lost opportunity can no longer be fully recovered by working harder later. Worse, time leaks operate the same way. The 5-minute interruptions that break deep work don't add up to a few hours. They dismantle the quality of the hours you do keep. Why, it compounds. Humans are terrible at noticing frequent small costs. We feel a single $8 charge as trivial and a cumulative $960 as abstract. Loss aversion biases and status cues make us keep the leak open, because canceling a service feels like small pain today for a payoff far in the future. Corrective action. Run a quarterly audit. List every recurring payment, every automatic renewal, every app. Cancel ruthlessly. Do a daily 5-minute "Where did my time go?" check for 1 week each month and eliminate the worst offenders. Convert small savings into forced investments. When income hits, transfer a fixed small amount into a separate account that you can't easily access. Turn the invisible into visible. One-liner. Patch the leaks before you build the castle. It's cheaper and wiser. Putting the pieces together, how these habits conspire. The habits interact predictably. Instant gratification feeds small leaks. Debt for pleasure locks in payments that make time feel scarcer because you must keep working to service obligations. Comfort with mediocrity lets you accept low-value tasks that consume time. Outsourcing thought leaves you vulnerable to persuasive marketing that normalizes waste. The combination, small spending, poor time allocation, low learning, becomes an accelerating spiral. Imagine this scenario. You accept mediocre assignments at work while financing a lifestyle beyond your means. You outsource investment choices to an influencer and subscribe to entertainment packages that fragment your attention. Your days fill with shallow tasks, and your evenings fill with micro purchases. The spiral. Debt reduces flexibility. Low-quality work reduces income growth, and time leaks prevent the skill development that could break the spiral. That's how the harmless becomes the entrenched. Now the good news. Compounding applies in reverse. Start one corrective, and it magnifies. Stop buying the 4-hour latte each weekday and automate that 1,160 a year into a savings vehicle. Invest it, and over decades, that redirected vote for the future compounds exponentially. Replace 1 hour of low-value scrolling with 30 minutes of deep learning per day, and watch judgment grow. The path out is the mirror image of the path in. A practical implementation plan. Theory is nice. Execution is everything. Change is not dramatic. It is mechanical. Below is a concrete plan you can use over 90 days. It is designed to be simple, measurable, and consistent with the mental models we've used so far. Phase 0. Decision and focus. Choose one front. Don't attempt wholesale surgery. Pick the single habit that gives the highest immediate return or the clearest path to discipline. That might be stop financing consumption, start a time audit, cancel subscriptions, or begin a reading habit. Make a firm rule. For 90 days, prioritize that one habit above marginal optimizations. Phase 1. Diagnose. Days 1-14. Create baseline data. Track spending and time. Put every recurring charge into a spreadsheet. For 2 weeks, use a simple time tracker app or a paper log. What did you do? For how long? And how valuable was it? At the end of week 2, ask 3 questions for each major line. Is this necessary? Does it scale my leverage? Does it increase optionality? If the answer is no to 2 of the 3, cut it. Phase 2. Implement. Days 15-60. Introduce the corrective that matches the habit you chose. If you picked spending leaks, enact the 24 to 72-hour rule for non-essential purchases. Move discretionary funds into a separate account. Automate savings transfers on payday. Run the subscription audit and cancel everything you don't use. If you pick time leaks, implement strict time blocking. Define 2-3 deep work blocks per week and protect them. Schedule shallow tasks into short, decluttered windows. Use a single email check habit, 2 windows a day, and turn off instant notifications. If you picked stopping learning, set a daily 30-minute focused study block. Use the book and learn combo. Read 1 chapter, take 5 notes, teach 1 idea aloud to a friend. If you picked debt reduction, automate payments above the minimum toward the highest interest balance. Freeze all new financed purchases for the 90 days. Create a visible progress bar to track reduction. Whatever the corrective, make it binary and enforceable. Either the subscription is canceled or it's not. Either the card is removed from your phone or it stays. Phase 3. Harden. Days 60-90. Make the new rules stick. Add accountability. Share the rule with a friend and request weekly check-ins. Set calendar reminders for monthly audits. Increase the friction on the old habit. Keep tempting websites behind a password you have to request or uninstall shopping apps. Measure progress numerically. Dollars saved, hours reclaimed, pages read, debt paid. Keep a weekly note where you record what changed and what surprised you. If you slip, document the trigger and redesign the environment. A sample 90-day calendar, practical, not preachy. Week 1-2, track expenses and time. Cancel obvious subscriptions. Decide which habit to attack first. Week 3-4, implement the corrective. Set up automations, transfers, payments, calendars. Week 5-8, reinforce. Add weekly reviews. Increase the difficulty slightly. Stretch goals that push capability. Week 9-12, harden. Require proof, screenshot of canceled services, time logs, and install longer-term structures, annual audits, quarterly learning goals, tools and tricks that actually work. The human problem is not strategy, it's execution. Here are mechanisms that let strategy become routine. Make rules binary. Vague resolutions fail. Replace "I'll save more" with "every payday, transfer $200 to savings before I touch the rest." Replace "I'll read more" with 30 minutes at 7 a.m. every weekday, no phone in bed. Create friction for bad actions. Hide your credit card in a drawer. Remove saved payment information. Make impulse buys require a 24-hour effort. Move the item to a wish list and log it. Automate the good. Use automatic transfers, scheduled bill payments, and auto paydown for debt. If it's automatic, it happens without daily willpower tax. Use commitment devices. Prepay-ful accounts, locked savings, or visible public commitments increase the cost of backsliding. Habit stack. Attach new behaviors to established routines. After I brush my teeth, I'll read 15 pages. After morning coffee, I'll check one high-priority financial metric. track a single metric. Complexity kills follow-through. Choose one number, weekly discretionary spend, hours of deep work, books finished, and update it weekly. Use social architecture. Join a group of deliberate people. If your circle normalizes waste, you will conform. Choose company that elevates you. Keep a failure log and a lesson note. When you fail, write what happened and what you'll do differently. Failure is raw data. Learning is the product. A few numerical illustrations to motivate discipline. We'll do 3 short concrete calculations so the math is vivid and actionable, always saying at a modest return to avoid promises. 1. The latte example revisited. $4 per workday, allow $460 per year. Invested each year for 30 years at a modest 6% annualized return. That stream becomes roughly $115,000. The latte itself is not the villain. The habit of perpetual small purchases is. 2. Subscription consolidation. $80 per month in subscriptions is $960 a year. Invest that annual amount for 20 years at a modest 6% return, and you end up with roughly $35,000. If that money instead financed a new skill or a small business seed, the opportunity multiplies. Either way, the recurring drain is not trivial. 3. Credit card danger. A $2,500 purchase at 20% annual interest, if you only pay the minimum, may take years to retire and cost thousands in interest. The lesson: when you finance consumption at high rates, interest compounds against you. Make reduction of high-interest obligations a priority. These figures are examples, not predictions. The point is the order of magnitude. Small, consistent changes lead to large differences over time. Mental models that prevent relapse. Fixing surface behaviors helps, but to prevent relapse, you must adjust the internal models that produce choices. Here are a few mental models to internalize. Inversion. Instead of, "What should I do?" ask, "What should I avoid?" It's easier to remove bad options than to invent perfect behavior. Opportunity cost thinking. Every choice closes other doors. Count what you forgo when you choose convenience. Marginal cost to marginal benefit. If the incremental benefit is small and the marginal cost is immediate, be suspicious. Default bias. Defaults shape behavior. Make your defaults align with your strategy. Defaults are destiny. Second-order thinking. Think beyond the first consequence. Buying the gadget now might buy status today and debt for years. Social and organizational fixes. You are the average of the 5 people you spend most time with. That's clickable, but true. Social architecture matters. Make commitments public. Tell a friend you're canceling subscriptions or starting a learning streak, then report weekly. Create peer accountability. Find someone with a similar habit to attack and trade progress notes. Change the environment. If your household normalizes immediate consumption, set household rules. A family subscription-free month or a joint savings goal that everyone contributes to. What to expect emotionally. Be blunt with your expectations. You will feel friction. Your brain will protest. Social friction will appear. Friends who want to spend in the same old ways. Resist the belief that discomfort equals failure. Discomfort is the signal that you are changing the wiring. The first weeks are the hardest because habits are still new and the brain still seeks the old shortcuts. After repetition, the new behavior becomes automatic, and the cost of maintaining it drops dramatically. A few objections and how to answer them. I don't have time to track time. Start with a conservative estimate. You can use a single day a month as a sanity check and still catch big leaks. I deserve small pleasures. You do. Plan them. Budget them. Make pleasure a funded, conscious choice, not an automatic leak that consumes optionality. I tried before and failed. Failure is learning. Treat it like data, not destiny. Adjust the environment and make the steps smaller. The long patience of compounding, this is the final simple practical truth. Compounding is patient and brutal. It magnifies both neglect and discipline. The same arithmetic that allows a small annual investment to grow into 6 figures over decades will also allow small annual drains to become large erosions of freedom. Your job is to choose which arithmetic rules your life. A short decision checklist you can memorize when tempted to spend time or money. Ask, does this increase my optionality over the next 5 years? Who benefits from me doing this now? Is this purchase or action consistent with the person I want to be? If 2 answers are no, don't do it. An immediate, no excuses 3-step action you can take today. 1. Run a 5-minute finance audit, list recurring charges, and identify one to cancel. 2. Do a single deep work block tomorrow, 60 minutes of focused work with no distractions. 3. Choose one book to read this month that enhances your judgment and schedule 30 minutes a day to read it. Those 3 steps alone are votes for a different future. Final synthesis, each habit we discussed, effort without leverage, instant gratification, consumption debt, stopping learning, avoiding responsibility, comfort with mediocrity, outsourcing thought, treating time as renewable, and ignoring small leaks, is not a moral failing as much as an informational and structural failure. They're choices that accumulate into a life. Each day you act is a vote for a person you become. The goal is not perfection. It's to design a system where your default behaviors, environmental cues, and social realities align with long-term advantage. If you do the work, if you notice the leaks, build the friction, automate the good, and say no when it matters, you will not get fireworks. You will get freedom, quiet, compound freedom that shows up in options, the ability to buy time, to uproot for opportunity, to choose work you respect, and to live inside deliberate boundaries rather than reactive emergencies. One last bit of bluntness. The world does not owe you an allowance for vanity or comfort. It rewards value creation, judgment, and patience. You can be industrious and remain poor if you keep voting for the immediate. The wisest strategy is often the inverse of the popular. Avoiding the common mistakes is as powerful, sometimes more powerful, than chasing the next great trick. That is an investor's humility and a life's sanity. If this changed how you view a daily choice, subscribe, download the Habit Audit Checklist in the description, and start with one small corrective today. Choose which vote you'll cast for your future, and then make it automatic.